Hi, I'm Rachel Goodwin and I'm a channel and healer who loves to teach and empower others. My work is about teaching you how to make a strong and powerful connection with your divinity, your divine spark, soul, higher self, whatever you want to call it, and then bringing that divine power right smack centre into the middle of your life so that it mixes and integrates with your everyday life and your everyday self. To me, this is ascension as it creates an overall rising of vibration and is where my path and yours has always been leading. And today we're talking to Maria Lisette Jacobsen. This is the first Danish person that I've interviewed, which is rather lovely. And she is a self-employed herbalist, shamanic practitioner and teacher in the field of Nordic shamanism, animism. And she has a wonderful company called Hyldemors Have, which means Elder Mother's Garden, where she daily inspires and motivates thousands of followers on social media. She's been a seeker of wisdom since early age, which led her to both the modern Asatru community and from that onto the path of the shaman for the last 20 years. Maria strives to empower her clients in having greater confidence in their own abilities by gaining knowledge of nature's healing resources. She teaches live and online about the health-promoting properties of nature, both medically with herbs and spiritually through shamanic practices. It was lovely talking to Maria today. She lives in an enchanted forest in a beautiful house, 200-year-old witchy house, as she describes it, which you can see on the cover of the podcast, together with her two teenage daughters and their black cat, Tor Herman. So I hope you enjoyed today's show. It was really great talking to Maria. We had a wonderful time. Hope you do too. Au heia valea naoe e kahaliko puhaku kui kuhia o kaunaia a kahapu kumamoni nei Pikoi kahimanaho I kahapili koholuaia Ea ke kaula lo pihana e kohopu kapaliliai Haina mai kapuana e kahaliko puokukui. So welcome everyone to another episode of Sacred You. And I've been having a summer break and I have to say, it was nice, but it's so lovely to get back to work. And I'm so happy to be doing this episode today with Maria. Hi, Maria.
Hello, Rachel. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's lovely. It's lovely to talk to you. So Maria is from Denmark, so she's not too far away from me. And that's really nice. It's nice for a change. I think you're the first person in Denmark that I have interviewed.
Amazing. I'm really honored then.
Yeah. Usually I'm talking to people in America or Australia or the UK, you know, could be anywhere in the world. And that's the wonderful thing about Zoom and podcasts, and the world is opened up so amazingly.
Yeah, that's true. That's one good, several good things have come out of this online years we have gone through. Yeah. And normally I ask people about the weather because I actually like to hear what kind of climate people live in, but sure. I guess I can tell by looking outside. Yeah, I think we're going towards a good day today, not that much rain and a pretty nice sun. I hope.
Yeah. It's always good to be hopeful. Well, I'm going for a swim later in the fjord, whatever the weather is doing anyway, because I find that it's something that brings me a lot of joy, just being in the water, even if it's windy or raining or cold, or I just go.
Yeah.
So
sometimes the water feels much warmer when it's a little cold up on the apart from water.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would really love to hear about you and your life, and a little bit, but where were you born? What was life like growing up? And how did you get to where you are now?
Yeah, how much time do we have?
People always say that.
Yeah, but yeah, of course, it's I just turned 41, and then sometimes I feel like I'm 80, looking upon what I have went through up until now. But that's a good thing, I guess. But my childhood was pretty, from the outside, pretty common. I grew up in I don't know what's it called in English, but there you must help me. Parcelhuskvarter.
Oh, okay. So it's like a neighborhood of houses that are bungalows. I think we call them bungalows. Yeah.
Very, very middle class Danish, safe upbringing. With my mother, she divorced my biological father when I was 2. Because he was having drinking issues, so she sort of took me and left. And then she met another husband, and he was my father up until now. He's luckily still very alive, but he became my father figure. And I went to school, and I remember from being 4 or 5, starting in this new kindergarten, I always felt like an outsider, not really fitting in, not being part of the popular group of girls, or not having that many friends, but always seeking out to nature, and always sort of having interest or a longing for history and old places. And we did a lot of camping when I was young, going around Denmark, and my mother always took me to the nearest museum or the nearest grave mound or local site. And other children might have thought that would be pretty boring, but I sort of loved it. I felt a strong connection to these places, not something that I could articulate at that moment, but it was just this feeling of to be understood. But it's hard to put in words, but very short, being different and needed to sort of make new strategies to survive in a overført betydning, but I ended up being very angry as an angry child, because things happened with my biological father. I was abused when I came to visit him, and that sort of made a great impact on how I was to set limits or borders around myself. So a lot of things happened in a dysfunctional upbringing, sort of, because, as I said, from the outside, all looked perfect, nice house, 2 cars, whatever, good jobs. But from the inside, I was struggling real hard. And growing up in the 80s, where children's psychology maybe wasn't such a popular subject, it was just like, please behave, don't be angry, stop acting this way. And I was just like a small girl, couldn't find my feet in this, what's happening around me. I know that my mother did the best she could with the sort of resources that she had available, and I have done all the work, forgiving and blah blah blah, and we are at a good place today, no problem. but it just has really carved some trails in me from a young age. So when I was around 14, I think, I went to the first common meditation in a Buddhist center in Copenhagen, and I'm sure my mother thought that I was sort of being adopted by the moon community or anything like that. But I was just looking, sort of looking for a place to fit in and looking for something with more depth than what my community sort of could bring into my life. We didn't have my parents didn't believe in anything. I was baptized and confirmed. What do you call?
Confirmed.
Confirmed, yeah.
Yeah.
But more like a cultural way of, this is how we do it, not because anyone asked me, do you believe in God or anything? Or maybe they did, but I just don't remember. But I didn't felt in the right place, and I didn't. I was, yeah. It's really cliche, but I was like this black sheep in a herd of very white sheep. One sheep. But the most, or the thing I remember the most from going to that Buddhist center was that it smelled a lot like curry.
Okay.
And it wasn't that it gave me a big spiritual awakening or anything. It was nice to go and see people can live in a totally different way from my very safe environment, and it was. I don't know, a shared house. You know, they live a lot of people together, all really
a community,
community, hippie style,
yeah.
And it was great for me to experience that there were other ways to do life. But then I went back and forth, and I actually applied for being in the Air Force as an officer. Yeah, when I was in gymnasium, and I have sort of. Laid out my career, and I was going to do this and that and forth, and then I failed the apply. You know, you were going to have a test to see if you're okay to come in, and I was not, and I became very, very angry because I was like, you don't want to have me. This is where I have to be. So I just. Sorry, my English, but fucked it all.
It's okay.
I went to town. And then I used like 5 years on partying, drinking, going crazy, losing myself, and listened to a lot of electronic music, did a lot of drugs, just, experience, and again, trying to push limits, I think. And sort of losing contact to my parents, and I lived on my own. And suddenly one day that sort of just stopped. I thought, I found myself on the floor, waking up thinking, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to have a life, a different life. And then my mother, even though I have sort of rejected her, she kept on sending me these, you can be this, you can be that, you can be a gardener, you can be an archaeologist. And I thought, well, if I have to go through a long education, it needs to be something that I really like. And archaeology has always been close to my heart and was sort of my safe haven when we went to the museums and the open air museums and things like that when I was a kid. So I applied, and someone has pulled some strings because I came in and started studying archaeology in 2003, I think. So almost 20 years ago. And I did a little work before being able to enter the university. I had to volunteer, and I did that at the Lejre, which is sort of like an open-air prehistoric museum where they reenact different periods of time from the past. And there I met the Viking reenactment environment and the community, and I became aware that there was something called Asatro, the Asatru community, where you sort of worship the old gods and Norse traditions. And that was a great revelation for me, that there was actually people who went outside and connected with the nature and the power of nature, and that hit home for me. Not exactly maybe as it was performed 20 years ago. It was very Thor and Odin-like, very male, masculine, hail, mighty, whatever, and a lot of meat and a lot of horn, and that was great enough. But it was a great party, and the men were very beautiful, long beard and great. But for me, I was more, not gentle, but I sort of longed for something more sensed. But I became aware of the old Nordic tradition of sight, which is a kind of shamanism where you use the power of the song to journey. And there was this archetype called the vulva. She was sort of like a fortune teller or a seeress in the Viking age, and you could call her a witch also. And I was very much adorned to her, or I thought, well, I need a strong female role figure, so I will go that way. And that sort of took me onto my life's journey of working with shamanism, because at that time there was only Annette Høst here in Denmark, who has also been teaching abroad, who taught courses inside. And to go on that course, you needed the basic course of shamanism. And I was like, no way. This is way too hippie. This is people dress up in Native American headgear and things like that. That was sort of like my prejudice of this. But I really wanted to go on the side course, so I had to sort of like swallow the camel and and say, okay, well, I'll attend this basic course, and then I'll just sort of only focus on what I need. And I did that, and I remember going into it was like a dance studio in Copenhagen, and there was leaves and a small altar and a candlelight and stones and things like that. And it was sort of very exotic for me, but still there was something that sort of made some sense. And when Annette opened the circle and called in the spirits, I was just like, oh, I need that. And from that day, I have sort of never looked back. So this and that and a whole lot of other things happened, and of course, then I stayed on the road and studied archaeology, and 10 years ago I finished my master and got a job. All the things you have to do when you get a career, got a good job at the museum, and worked on a lot of excavations and very interesting and nice things that people always say, oh, it's so exciting that you were an archaeologist. And yeah, it was, but it was just not for me. So on the side, besides working at the museum, I started teaching both with the herbs, because I've always, that's another, my story has a lot of lines, but the herbs have sort of been another line on my string also. And I had a blog and made some videos just for fun. Look, I have made this funny tincture or ointment or whatever, and people really loved it. And they sort of asked me, couldn't you make a course, or couldn't you sort of please teach us more? And I was only like, well, I don't know diddly squat. I just try and let's see what's happening. But the job at the museum was hard. It's in Denmark. It's tough work to get a career in this field, probably as it is in other countries too. And being a young woman, not afraid to put on her peacock feathers, it could be a problem to work in a very, I couldn't say male dominated, because it's very womanly dominated, but you need to be a certain kind of woman to fit into the a little bit tough museum.
It's a masculine energy that you're in. It's a masculine paradigm, isn't it?
It is, and very much. I only know it from Denmark, of course. Don't you dare believe you are something, because we will put you down. If you're not like us. So I struggled a lot. I had a hard time, but fortunately someone saw that I was really good at my job too. So I didn't sort of lose hope. I just kept on fighting. And then when I came home from the museum, I fought for my own company and started teaching. And after 5 years, I could see that I had really something going that people were interested in. And then 2 years ago, my life sort of, I threw a bomb on my life, and I quit my job, and I quitted my marriage and left home with sort of nothing but my good name and my new company, which was not so new at that time. But then I ended up here in the forest by luck and mysterious help, and this is sort of where I am today, teaching full-time now and working with the plants and the shamanism and living in the most magical forest. Yeah,
I love your story, Maria. That is just like wow. And there's so many things in there that I relate to. So I moved to Denmark 7 years ago. Next week it will be, because I married a Danish guy, Thomas, and he works at Roskilde University, and as a researcher in like pedagogy. So we work a lot with pedagogues and the younger children's sort of nursery. Does a lot of research into that. He's just started. He does a lot of stuff on children's imagination.
Oh, cool!
And he's trained as a Jungian psychoanalyst as well, and he uses as much as that as he can kind of sneak in, and you know, it's very much the same experience for him. You know, it's this very masculine dominated environment. So like when you were saying it about your museum, I was kind of feeling that same energy. But we moved here because he couldn't get a job in the UK. He was overqualified for this job he went to at a university. He was underqualified for another one. And also because his field, it doesn't really work in the UK because we don't have a professional like job. People who work in nurseries get paid really low money. And a lot of parents stay at home and look after their kids until they're 4 when they start school. So it's like a completely different thing. So I sort of had to come to Denmark because we had Benji, who was just a baby then. But I had to leave my eldest son in the UK with his dad. And it was just like, it was a nightmare, I'll be honest. I really didn't want to, but I had to live somewhere. And it was either like, you know, live here or that was it, you know, because practically you have to live, don't you? So when I came here, I was many years into my kind of spiritual career, as it were. But I was just so heartbroken the first year that I came here. I just went around all the springs in Roskilde, connecting with their energy, because I love springs. I really, really love springs. And I worked with them really, really, really deeply and intensely. And I've actually written a guide about it.
How cool.
Yeah. And I took people around the springs and, you know, people who'd lived here years, obviously spiritual type people. And they went, wow, we didn't realize the energies were so strong. And I was like, yeah, you just have to like drop down a bit and suddenly a whole new world opens. But I love all the burial mounds and the grauhoi, and I'm really sensitive to energy. So it's been really exciting for me to come here because there's so many power lines and ley lines and ancestors in the landscape. And so I really felt like, okay, I know nothing about Nordic spirituality. It had never really been mentioned in any of the things that I'd done, priestess stuff, witch stuff, psychic stuff. It never really came up, apart from talking about Freya as a love goddess, which, now I look at it and I go, oh God, just to put her in a thing as a love goddess, it's like, really, that's just such a misperception. But I tried to get on Annette Hust's English course, but it was full. But Tom, because we actually we lived opposite her in Copenhagen. We lived in Gunnlaugsgade, which is just across the road. And I went and met her because Thomas did one of her courses. But then we went to England and lived there a couple of years. But like I said, Thomas couldn't get work. So then we came back and I said to Thomas, I am not living in Copenhagen. It's a really nice city as far as cities go, but it's like, I can't cope with all that concrete. Roskilde is about as big a town as I can manage, and that's because it's got springs. But so I couldn't get on Annette Hust stuff. And then I found something in Sweden. There was an English woman, Imelda, and well, she's not actually. She's from the Netherlands. She's Dutch, but she lives in the UK, and she's married to a Swede. And she was teaching an introduction to sight, or Seither, as they say it in Sweden, just in Skåne. And I was like, well, I'm going to go to that. And I just wanted a basis in it, I just wanted to kind of get in tune with the land where I was living and to understand the history, because I do a lot of like energy work. I get called to places like grauhois and, burial mounds and places like that, and I have to do energy work because some of them have lovely energy and some of them are really awful. I really need, you have to work with a whole like group to sort of, do something about it and kind of fix some stuff. And I just went there on this intro course because the thing is, I'd never been interested in kind of the Viking thing, because it was, to me, it was all Odin and blood and beer and, I like to have a nice cup of tea. I'm not saying I don't like the odd snaps, because I do, but it didn't, as a woman, I have to say it didn't appeal to me in a sort of a spiritual way. And then on this Seither, it was like I connected with the Norns immediately. I was supposed to go on a journey to meet Odin. No. I went down to Brazil and immediately there was the Norns there, and I was just like, oh, I know you. I'm really surprised I know you, but I wasn't expecting any of it. And then from that, it's never stopped. I've gone on and done more courses with Imelda, and she's great because she goes back to all the old sources. She's a real scholar. And if there was like a Hogwarts University, she would be a professor in it.
How cool.
She's taught herself like 18 languages, and like she knows all the scans because she always wants to go back to the source and the original and like do her own translations and stuff like that. And she has taught us such a feminine, there's so much divine feminine energy in the Scandinavian, in the Old Norse spirituality. And I would never have known that from like the last 50 years of my life. It was like completely hidden. So like everything you were saying, I'm just like, oh yeah. And I'm so excited to like, because I mean, I do channeling and I work with an ascended master, and this is not like a big part of my work, but it always comes in to whatever I'm talking about now, because I work a lot with the rune energy and they speak to me, and it's like, and this kind of energy framework of this feminine side, or say that so many women really respond when I say it. They just get it. And it's like it's in their European bloodline because it was, you know, it was in Britain, it was in Germany, it was all over Scandinavia. And so many of us are kind of carrying it. And even if we're not carrying it ancestrally, we're carrying it like in our soul. Remember, so it was why I was so excited to talk to you, because I feel like, you know, and I saw you on Instagram, because you have a really great, I really love your Instagram feed with the beautiful pictures and photographs on there. And then I saw you do a video and you said, I want to do more stuff in English. And I was like, oh, goody.
Yeah.
And I was really happy. I was really happy when I could interview you. So what kind of things are you going to do in English now? What plans have you got for the future?
I really want to sort of open my business into teaching in English. So the videos are sort of like my training wheels, because I have my big blockage is that English is not my native language, and I'm sort of like this perfectionist type. So when I do something, I really want to put it forward in something that I can be proud of, or something that people can sort of get something out of, instead of me just mumbling along and trying to make myself understandable. But that is sort of like a personal work I need to do and be ready to put it into life. But the videos will sort of be just do it. And I have done a course in Danish called Hverdagsshamanen, which is sort of like everyday shamanism, on how to integrate shamanistic tools, or you could say small rituals, or just the way you look upon the world into your everyday life. Because often people struggle with going to a course and they're really spiritual and have a lot of great experiences, but then a Monday come and what to do? You still have to go to work, you still have to pick up the kids, make dinner, but how do you sort of do that from a more spiritual or animistic approach? So that was my intention with the Danish course, and I have thought about doing that same course but in English, because that was not an easy start for me, but that was sort of, I already have the framework. Then I just need to translate the stuff into English, and of course adjust a bit and things like that. And that will of course also include something which is more related to the Nordic traditions, or because I live and teach and work here, and I'm very much related to the land and the landscape. But as you just said, it's in the soul, it's not particularly in the genes. So I want to make this available for all people, regarding if you come from South America, or Greenland, or Siberia, it doesn't matter. Sorry, this is sort of like universal methods or things that everybody can do and relate to, and that is my hope that I can make this available for people.
Yeah, and I think people are so ready for it, Maria. There is like, the world is like opening up to this. And of course, you know, it's always been there. But I don't think it's coincidental that it's happening now. And because like if I speak from my own experience, there's something in the Eddas and in the teaching and in the energy of it where I can really find myself as a woman. And it's strong and it's great and there's wisdom, but I'm still a woman. I don't have to give up my femininity, but it's not a femininity that's based on a lot of superficiality that we find in our current, you know, when I, like you know, when I was at school, I was weird and people knew I was weird. And that was really difficult because I was, I didn't know how to make friends, and I was always imagining things. And then, you know, I grew up in a society and I look around at the role models of women, and it's really hard for me to find something where I can see myself. But with this, I can, and I know I've spoken to enough people now, and they get so excited about it. So I think people like you are absolutely necessary. We really need you.
Thank you. Oh, that touched my heart. But I can totally relate. As you were talking, I was thinking about that. To the story is that Annette became my close friend, and I have been working with her for the last 10 years, and she has sort of been the role model that I could not find in my upbringing, because she's a I can say that without her being angry. She's an elderly lady. She just turned 70, and she lives alone. And she in a small house in Copenhagen, but in a sort of small sanctuary with trees and gardens and things like that. And she can manage herself, and she is has a strong spirituality. And people really respect her from her knowledge and for being the person she is. And she has all the way through sort of really kept her femininity together with being a strong and independent woman. And that is really something that I look up to and hope that I can embrace myself over the time. So truly that we are sort of people like children like us being weird and not fitting in. It is a big problem that there were no visible role models for them to look upon. I think now, also as you said, just Harry Potter but the oldest of my girls, she looks like me on some fields, but she really has some good role models, not me, but in the stories and in the movies that are current. Yeah.
Yeah, this is something I'm just starting to write about, actually. So I said my husband Thomas, he's undertaking like a Jungian education, and one of his teacher, her name's Pia. I'm really bad at remembering names. It could be Pia Grossman, but she has written a lot about the daughter archetype, and it's about this, and you can see it in the films that have come out, like with even Frozen, like Katniss, in the Hunger Games, and that Whale Rider, that one, and there's other ones as well where these young women are like rising up and really taking their power and saving the world, basically. It's like, I was born in 1970, and no women were saving the world in the cinemas for me growing up,
And they were saved by the knight in shining armor.
That's it. And I had to work years to overcome that, because I was expecting that as well. And I had to really overcome that. And I was so angry when I realized that's what I'd been doing.
Yeah. But it's a great revelation when you get to that point and say, okay, there's no one who will save me but me.
Yes, exactly. And I have to say, I have felt that since moving to Denmark. Like, it's in the land, that energy, women being independent and powerful, it's there, even if people have been kind of, maybe, I don't want to sound prejudiced, but I am a little bit. But even if people have been Christianized into another culture, it never really made it properly in Scandinavia,
but that's really true. And I think that, of course, the women took care of the children and the home and all things like that. But now I also play around in the Viking reenactment community, so I'm a little colored, but still I know that when the men were away, it was the women who sort of was the main juridisk, how do you say that? They were the ones to claim the household and set the rules, and
they were in charge.
And I think maybe it still lingers somehow that we can do this by ourselves.
Yeah, and there's nothing sort of like, doesn't feel like there's a hardship to it. It's like,
no,
because the power that's needed is there, and it's just like, that's how it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I was just curious, what museum did you work in?
The name is Kroppedal Museum. Okay. It's in Tostrup, nearby Copenhagen. Oh. We sort of had all of Vestegnen, the west of Copenhagen, from Lyngby all the way down to Greve, actually.
Okay. Okay.
So it's a pretty big area of examination, both excavations and all sort of work at the commune. I don't know what to call it.
Yeah. Commune. I mean, it's different words depending on which country you come from, but I mean, it's like a local council area or something, isn't it? It's like, oh, fancy that. I haven't been over that way much, because there's just so much like round here, like locally. Definitely. I haven't needed to really. I've been to Møn a little bit and done some things there, and on Bornholm I was absolutely gobsmacked, like so shocked to find all the Hyldemors there, all the what's it called in English?
Rock
petroglyphs.
Yeah.
Because I'd never seen it mentioned. And I was just like, the energy was so strong coming off. There's what's that big rock called? They've got ice cream named after it. It's a famous Bornholm ice cream, and it's actually named after this big, like, outcropping of
Krøllebølle.
That's it. It's Krøllebølle. Yeah. Because we were staying near there, and I was just mesmerized by this outcropping, and it was like of stone, and I was like, I have to walk over there. So I walked over there, and she was a bit damaged because there's been a lot of dynamiting on Bornholm into the landscape where they were quarrying stone. But I could sort of feel it was like, but it was so female. And then I found out that's what because, people see it as a troll it's another way of calling an inhabiting spirit, isn't it? Such a beautiful energy. And then I found out that's what the ice cream is named after. And I was like, that's so hilarious. It's like,
it's really funny. And Bornholm is actually, maybe you could say, very not Danish-like, because it's more maybe like Iceland, and they still have a strong sort of, maybe not, they will not maybe say it out loud, but there's a strong feeling about the land and the spirits of the land.
I loved it. And I could feel the people that had been there, like that had done those petroglyphs. I could feel they're the same people as, so like in Sweden, I've been round to, with the Sather training that I've been doing there, I've been round to, and I can feel the same energy. And then I felt it. We had some time, me and Thomas, during the summer. We had a week where Benji was at Outlasting, so he was getting looked after in respite care, and he wanted to go to there's not Christiania. There's a museum up above Copenhagen. I've forgotten what it's called, but it's like a modern art museum. Louisiana. Yeah. And we went there, and it was just completely like people queuing for miles outside in the rain. And we were like, oh no, because of COVID, I hadn't thought about like the restrictions. No. Yeah. And I was like, we'd seen the Karen Blixen Museum on the way there. And my mum always loved those books, and I always loved those books. Yeah. And then I was really shocked when I found out she was Danish. Because
you didn't know.
No, well, I knew it was somewhere. But it could have been, it didn't mean anything to me, because before I moved here, my geography is really bad. But before I moved here, I couldn't have told you where Denmark was.
No, that's okay. Jutland is sort of everything after the bridge. So
but anyway, so we went to the Karen Blixen Museum, and as soon as we get to the car park, I go, oh my God, there's an energy here. There's an energy here. And he said, people say she was a witch. Maybe it's because of that. And I was like, well, even if it was, I don't think so, because it's bigger. It's bigger than that. Let's go and explore. Anyway, so we went round and had an explore. And then in the museum itself, there's like this stone up on the wall, like this ancient stone with like a handprint on it that's been carved in. That looks really alien. I was like, what is that? And then next to it, there was this explanation sort of saying, oh, the family said it came from a burial mound, but it was sort of very almost like they were making it up or something. Anyway, so we go round and we go outside and we go into the woods and we go up to Karen Blixen's grave, which is amazing. Have you been there?
I have not been there like in 25 years or so.
Okay. So there's this beech tree, like this massive beech tree, like her stone is under it. And it's almost like this beech tree is like coming down, like holding her in her arms. Yeah. And the energy coming off her gravestone was just like, oh my God, that's so lovely. And I was, because you have to go up a hill. And I said to Thomas, I said, this is the sort of place where they always build grauhoys, especially near the sea, because it's on a, I'm really surprised it feels like there's one here. And then we went a bit further, there was like a hedge. And there's this bit where they've built like a stone sort of like ornamental, like on the ground, this sort of lovely stone path going round, and they've called it, I've forgotten, it's a 17th century Danish poet that used to sit there for inspiration, so they called it like Edvard's Hoy or something like that. And I'm sitting there and I'm going to Thomas, this is the grauhoy, but it hasn't said that in the museum. It can't be a grauhoy because they would have said, and I said, come on, we have to go and ask. We went into the museum. It's a Bronze Age burial mound.
Yeah, of course.
And it's not even mentioned anywhere. Okay. Do you know what I mean? I was just like, they don't even say it anywhere in the museum. And it's like, it's so precious. It's so, that energy there is just so beautiful. So everyone
I'll write it down. I need to go and look at it.
Everyone has to. And also as you go into it through the woods sort of go down into a dip, and it has that sort of, you know, where you get this in the landscape, you get this dip, and the energy is like pooling in the bottom of this dip. It's such a beautiful place there for doing ceremony or whatever. But the hint is in the name. I wish I had a better memory. But the farmstead is called something Lund.
Yeah, that's true.
Which means like sacred. It's like sacred grove. So these old places where it's got Lund in the end were usually like sacred places. But the reason why I started telling you all this was because it had that same energy of like the old Swedish energy that's like the people and whether it was Neolithic or Bronze Age, I don't know, but maybe the whole period.
They're probably Bronze Age, because that is when they made the rock carvings and a lot of these grave mounds.
Yeah, well, it's at Karen Blixen's place as well.
Yeah, truly. Yeah, but if it's normally we hear that they built the churches, the medieval churches upon old sacred places, but maybe also Karen Blixen's grave.
Yeah, I think I think it sort of says the family believed that, you know, it was an old set, but there's no sort of like, and it is a Bronze Age burial mound. It doesn't actually say that. And I think because there's so many of them in Denmark, it's almost like overseen, and it's really not treasured.
No. It's in Denmark, which is old farming country, they have sort of been looked upon with, this is in the way because we are not allowed to plow upon the grave mounds and things like that. So maybe it could be why.
Yeah, absolutely. And people needed to eat. So they had to knock a lot of them down. But also because people aren't sensitive to energy. They don't realise. They just think, oh, that's a little mound with a bit of grass on it. And it's like...
it's a nice view. You can go upside and look.
Yeah. Whereas me, I'm like, oh, I want to come and sleep here, you know? It's like...
Definitely, yeah. I know that feeling.
Oh, it's been so lovely talking to you today. I've probably talked too much.
No,
I do that.
It's great to have this exchange of energy and get to know one another. So.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, have you got like a simple tip that you can give to the people listening, something they can bring into their everyday life?
I have two, because
Okay.
they're both really good.
Okay, that's fine.
The first one is that when you wake up in the morning and put into your daily routine, you will probably have a cup of whatever hot thing that you prefer to drink in the morning. If you, instead of just swallowing it down, it's a difficult word.
Swallowing. Yeah, it's difficult.
Yes, please.
Swallowing.
Thank you. It's an English course also. No, try before you swallow, just to be aware of greeting your allies in whatever form they come. It could be if you work with spirit guides, or if you work with power animals, or if you just work with your old grandma. I always do that, and that sort of is just a small moment of awareness and appreciation. That is sort of my greeting to the day, but also to the ones I really would like to walk with me today. Could it be, I have like this phrase of you who always follow me, so I don't have to sort of say you down in the underworld and you out in the tree, but it's just sort of a hello saying to everyone. And I sort of feel that when I don't do it, because my morning start off on the wrong foot, I miss that. I miss that moment of connecting with the power of nature or power of my allies. And that's pretty easy. It doesn't take a lot. It's not a white candle and 3 times around the block. It's just step back and greet my whoever follows you.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I'm going to do that.
Yeah, it's so simple, but it's a really strong ritual. You could even call it a ritual. For me, it is, at least. And the other one is to start. Everyone probably knows how you can go out in nature, and if I struggle with something, then I can take a long walk, and after that I always feel a little bit more at ease, or maybe I have found a solution to the problem or whatever. But if you try to do that with awareness, that if you say, when I cross this road, this trail, this whatever, open the fence, from that part, everything that happens to me on my walk has meaning for my intention. My intention could be, how do I solve this problem with my friend, or whatever? How do I find a new job, or how do I find money to pay the rent, or whatever? But try to work with intention. So the key word is intention, that when you do these walk in nature, or even in the streets of your local city, or wherever you are, try to walk with intention and ask for help, so that nature around you will provide the answers. So when you are sort of finished with your walk, see what answers came to me, and how can I use them towards my intention. I could explain it more in details, but now I just try to be brief. But we call it a medicine walk when we work shamanistic. But it's a great, one of my favorite tools to sort of walk and work between worlds.
Yeah, that's
I'm a very pragmatic person.
Yes, yes, me too. So I always love these things that you can actually, you don't have to like make an extra time for it, because there's always something that you need to walk to and get some fresh air or whatever. So that's beautiful. That's really lovely. Thank you so much. So I wanted to just tell people that you have a Instagram feed if they're on Instagram, and that is Maria, Maria with _ Hyldemors _Haver. But I will put all the links in the show notes underneath. But the Hyldemor, Thomas told me it's a fairy tale.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
I didn't realize that.
It's an old fairy tale, or even an old just myth, that in the elder tree lives the elder mother, and she has to be treated with respect. and she can also be approached if you have a sickness. If you have a fever, you can ask her to take the fever, and she will bring fertility and frugality to you in your life. I actually have when I had my first child, into the labor room, I brought a branch from the elder tree, and they thought I was crazy, and maybe I were. Yeah. But yeah, she is probably connected to Freya. If we look really long back, and it's difficult, it's sort of maybe just a wishful thinking, but things.
Well, I have a book somewhere by a Swedish woman who lived in Glastonbury for a long time. Okay. She's dead now, but you know they have the whole goddess thing happen in Glastonbury. So she was a real goddess person, and she wrote. I can remember her saying about that elder tree was particularly kind of sacred in Denmark, and she connected it with hell.
Okay, yeah, but I don't want to run now, but I actually have two goddess poles on my altar.
Yeah,
one is Freya and one is Hel.
Yeah,
so they are sort of for me very intermingled.
Yeah, I mean that's it, isn't it? And they are, but I love the elder tree, and I'm so happy to be going and picking some berries this weekend. And you know, I love to talk to the tree and could just feel, you know, we have this lovely kind of I don't know, immersion with each other, but I feel very like the energy of the elder trees really helped me, because it has that kind of toughness, but also the wisdom and the like the abundance with the berries. And someone told me you can make tea from the blossoms, which I didn't know, and I drink so much tea, so I'm really happy to hear that.
The berries, they are really good help if you get the flu. So luckily I didn't get COVID, but if I had, I would have taken lots of tincture of elderberries.
Yeah, that's it, because it's really good for the immune system, isn't it? So where should we look for, you know, where the English stuff will be coming out? You've got a website, haven't you?
Yeah, go to my YouTube channel. There's already some English videos at the moment there, and when I start to make more videos in English, I will put them out for free on the YouTube channel. So, and in good time, there will probably come a paid course, but that will not be right now anyway. So the YouTube channel will be a good place to look. And my Instagram profile or account is also a good place, because I sort of walk between Danish and English. So a lot of it comes out in English and a lot of it in Danish. So
yeah, but the pictures, the photographs are beautiful anyway, so it's just worth looking out for the photographs. So.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah. It's a shame that Instagram doesn't do translations a lot of the time. I don't know why, because Facebook's quite good at it. But so it's all right for me because I can read Danish quite well, but I have a real problem with speaking it because, like you, I'm really a perfectionist.
Yeah.
And I can have a conversation in Danish, but I make so many mistakes. And I can hear myself like, I shouldn't have said po, I should have said e. And, you know, I get like, it probably helps if I have a few drinks.
Yeah. I think that too. I think that will help me too. Maybe I should just have a drink and then make a video.
Well, it's been really, really lovely talking to you today. And, you know, I do get emails from people who just love this podcast, and I know people will love hearing you as well, Maria. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, you're welcome. Lots of blessings.
Yeah, thank you. Likewise.
All right. Bye, everyone. Bye. See you later. Bye. Auheia valeana oe e kaliko puakukui. Kuhia o kaunaia a kapu ke momori nei. Iko I kahimanao I kahapili ko haloa ia. Hei ake kaula lopi ana e kopu kapalili ai. Haina mai kapuana e kahaliko puakukui. Au heia valeana oe e kahaliko puakukui. Kuhi au kaonaia a kahapu kumamoni nei. Pikui kahimanao I kahapili koholuaia. Hei ake kaula lopi ana e kopu kapalili ai. Haina mai kapuana e kahaliko puakukui. Au heia valeana oe e kahaliko puakukui. Kuhi au konaia a kahapu ke momori nei. Ikoi kahimanao I kahapili kualuaia. Hei ake kaula lopi ana he kopu kapalili ai. Haina mai kapuana e kahaliko puakukui. He noa no na ka ui